So we're talking about guard and everything, but there is a dynamic now in the game, especially with overdress, because they've changed a lot. That puts a twist on this. Blitz orders. Blitz orders are back, and some of you that played V Series, if you have, you already know what I'm talking about. We have more blitz orders that are like a quick ticket.
Yeah.
But for new players, they're going to say, well, what is this? Well, it's an order that you can use defensively like a shield. You can use it on your opponent's turns. And a good one is, the only one we have right now is Stoichea's, or Stoichea's. I keep messing up. Stoicheia.
Oh, that's how that's pronounced?
Stoicheia. So Stoicheia's is it gets +5, and then if you hit the condition, it gets +15 if you have 3 or 1 in the back row.
Yeah, that's big.
So that makes a difference because, you know, depending on how you play your game, could make you can have bigger shields. So it can impact the way you guard, and also the way your opponent plays can also impact your guard. If you're playing against Dragon Empire, they can pop one of your back rows and shut down your guard. That drops it from 15 down to 5. So don't rely on those. Keep in mind the same mentality, but at the same time, also play around with stuff like that. Like if you know that, you know, your opponent's never, unless you drive check it, your opponent's probably never going to know or use a skill that you have that in your hand. They can assume, but they're not going to just waste resources just to kill something just because, you know, their assumption you have it.
Yeah, if I were to start assuming you have that in hand to guard with every turn, I'm suddenly putting a lot more resources into hitting things that I'm over-calculating, and that will cost me resources almost every single time.
But since we're talking about blitz orders, what do you think could be the possibility of other blitz orders? Like, well, you're going to get more blitz orders, obviously.
Yeah,
but
somewhere down the road.
How far do you think they're going to go?
That's hard to predict. I like the blitz order we currently have because it's a level of opponent interaction. But I think, and how is it pronounced? Stoicheia?
Stoicheia.
Stoicheia. I think it's probably the best for its blitz order because that blitz order plays to the way every set currently we know for it wants to play. It wants to have a full field.
Yes.
That would be a lot harder to predict with something with like overdress from Dragon Empire. Now, unless it gave power to your overdressed units to help protect your rear guards, which are the real running engine of Dragon Empire, that's a little different. Because if during your turn my overdress gets plus 10k, you're not going to rear guard swing at it anymore. Not really.
So I know there are people out there that are thinking about this. But orders have skills. It doesn't have to be power. They have skills. Who's to say that Brentgate won't get an order, blitz order, that says imprison a card when your opponent's attacking? Or who's to say Dragon Empire won't get a blitz order that retires in a rear guard?
That's very true. It could. It would definitely be a back row. We're not going to have them just deleting something that swinging.
We had Denial Griffin, so it could be something like a Denial Griffin on an order.
We could definitely see it. It would be a game changer. It would definitely immediately push up a deck into a higher tier because of the ability to just not only block an attack but stop an attack.
Yeah. Who's to say like, oh, cool. You ripped 100 million? That's cool. I'm just going to blitz order this and kill it.
Be gone. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I don't think we'll immediately get it. But down the road, I definitely think that would be...
And obviously, it's going to have a cost to it, too. It's probably like Counterblast 2 or something. Or
something big.
Yeah. It's not going to just be like, play this card like Stoicheia is. Stoicheia is pretty good, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it's just like, it would be a normal shield. In your hand.
I think Counterblast 2 would probably be a good cost on that. It's late enough in the game. If you have 2 Counterblast and you need to delete an attack, you're probably already losing. That's when you need it.
But I can definitely see something like Brentgate for the Imprison deck getting... But, yeah, so I feel like there could definitely be more Blitz orders. That would be an interesting dynamic, though.
We'll definitely see them.
Because Blitz orders is definitely going to be a big part for Stoicheia for sure. Because that we got... what's his name? Zorga. He works on normal orders, not blitz orders. So blitz orders are honestly a little bit dead in his deck. Like, yes, your rear guards get effects when you play orders. But his ability, you can only alchemagic with normal orders. So
that helps, yeah.
So as we can see, a lot of these effects are very, very, like, prominent on these orders. And I like how Bushiroad is pushing orders now. Like back in V series, orders were just there. You had one Blitz order, and then you had all these generic orders that are like, why would I even play this? The book was probably the one that got the most use, or the unlock one occasionally got used, but they rarely got used because they were so overcosted or so niche that you'd almost never play them. But now we're seeing like these orders that are like, ooh, no, the whole deck revolves around these orders, which is nice because it gives a big change because now you're not stuck on units. You're stuck on playing other things. You're thinking. Like now we have field spells technically. Now we have instants and sorceries like magic now in the game, and it's making you like think like, well, what's a good ratio? Because some decks may not want to play a lot of units, but some decks might want to play a lot of units.
I find, specifically working with Dragon Empires, I find it helps with consistency, but it doesn't do just one thing. I do get, my overdress engine for the deck back, but I also power something else up. It does two things at once, which is definitely a nice direction for it. I find I was concerned, I guess, with Cater's order. It's definitely cost intensive, but it helps. It does what it's supposed to. It puts stuff where it needs to be.
Yes, the way I told Philip about this card, this is how I looked at it, because he's like, he didn't think of it as a great card, and I thought it was an amazing card. You know why? Because it takes up a grade 3 slot in your deck that's not an actual grade 3, and it replaces itself with things that could not be grade 3s that help you survive, because the deck is so flooded with grade 3s, and it wants a lot of grade 3s.
It has a lot of potential. Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Because if you think about it, like, ooh, well, this could be a grade 3 unit. Well, what's that grade 3 going to unit do in your hand? It's just dead, unless you play on the board. But you don't have like extra slots. You only have 5 slots.
Yeah.
You're just going to waste out your entire hand because otherwise you'd have no hand to guard with in general. Right? But if you use the order, it counts as the grade 3. But it itself can not only replace itself but draw you a card and be either shield or more units that you could use to benefit your grade 3s.
Okay.
So it's not just a dead card in your hand.
I agree. I did hit it as a grade 3 for my right up chain, so I was able to draw off of it.
Yes.
I did then immediately play it. I did hit 2 grade 3s with it, mind you, but in the off chance that was a perfect guard in something else that I could play, it has great defensive potential.
Because if you think about it, by the time you can play it, it's only when you're on grade 3. And by that point, you want 3 grade 3s in your hand for the grade 2 skill.
Correct, so you can draw an additional card.
Exactly. So it and 2 other grade 3s are already out of your deck. The likelihood of drawing one to more grade 3s is rare. It can happen, but it's less likely. So the fact that it's probably going to replace itself with a card with shield is better than it just being a dead grade 3. And then it could also plus you another card that has shield, not just it replacing itself.
It's very interesting. As I think about it, there's currently not much in the way of searching in Overdress. But orders do play a big enough role in some decks that you could one day see cards that search out orders.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, what's his name? Zorga.
Yeah.
It's so heavily reliant on normal orders that I can easily see a card to say, hey, I'm going to search for an order.
Yeah, exactly. And if you need to recover, then I could even see Dragon Empire getting something that gets in their order back so that they can keep playing off of their Overdress, because that's always a constant target.
And then we still have enough to see if we're might get even more set orders. We talked about this last episode, but Brandgate just isn't the only one that can just use the order zone.
Yeah, it's an actual zone on the field, so we could see a lot more permanent orders on the field.
Like, I love the direction you're going with this, but I'm just curious with Blitz Orders because a lot of people miss the aspect of interaction between in Vanguard back in G. They miss having G guards that interacted with your opponent's board and disrupting, because the one thing about Vanguard, yes, it's back and forth, but a lot of players also don't like being able to say, well, I have no control over this. Like, I don't like being able to say, well, they're just going to do it anyways, and there's nothing I can do about it. The good thing about Blitz Orders is it could add back the same aspect of G, where it's like, cool, I can lock your back row, or I can retire your rear guard, or I can interact with your board some way, so that way I'm not just dying. I have a say in what happens.
It disrupts my opponent's turn directly instead of I'm just throwing my hand at you.
It also makes skill for the other player because, you have to think, well, do they have something like this, a Blitz Order, that could affect my turn if I try to do all this? I have, say the retire one, right?
Yeah.
You're playing Stoic A, right? They that's a good example. They swing with their rear guards in the back row, right?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I can pop that one in the back row with the with the Blitz Order, right? Before they attack with the end of the vanguard attack. Well, cool. Now they don't have that really good target they were going to use to attack from the back row because I had a skill on the back row.
It's very interesting. And again, as you mentioned it, with Dragon Empire, let's say I do swing and retire a rear guard. If you used an order to, specifically the one we already have, to buff your field, that buff goes back down. I can control how much you're guarding with in a situation like that.
And the really, really good part, I think Brent Gate can really benefit from this if it gets an Imprison Blitz Order. For the simple fact that your opponent's probably saying, oh, okay, cool, well, they've wasted out a lot of their resources. They have a Soul Blast, but they can't Counterblast to keep taking my stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to pay all their resources. I'm going to take this so you have nothing. You have one Counterblast. You can't get the 3, right?
Yeah.
I attack. I'm going to Blitz Order, Soul Blast one, Imprison one of your back rows. Now I have one ready, so all I have to do is CB one to get there.
Yeah, that's not just opponent interaction. That's you setting up your turn on your opponent's turn.
And it's disruption.
Yeah, it's everything.
So I can see them easily doing stuff like this in the main set.
Yeah, I can too. That would be very powerful. It would also be enough to add variety to decks so that you're not just playing the exact same thing.
Exactly.